Welcome to today's episode of my English podcast with your host, Alex. Whether you're chatting with a friend, meeting someone new, or navigating a professional discussion, mastering conversational English is key to building confidence and fluency in everyday situations. In this episode, we're diving deep into the art of conversation, exploring practical strategies, relatable scenarios, and engaging storytelling to help you speak English naturally and effortlessly. Let's kick things off by reflecting on a few questions. Do you find it easy to have conversations in English? What do you usually talk about when meeting new people? How do you keep a conversation going when you're unsure what to say next? These questions set the stage for our journey today as we unpack the skills, phrases, and mindset needed to excel in conversational English. Whether you're a beginner or looking to polish your skills, this episode is packed with tips to make your conversations lively, meaningful, and enjoyable. Let's start with the basics, starting a conversation. A simple greeting can set a friendly tone and open the door to a great exchange. Phrases like, "Hi, how's it going?" or "Nice to meet you" are perfect for breaking the ice. These are casual, approachable ways to make the other person feel comfortable. For example, imagine you're at a coffee shop and you strike up a chat with someone in line. You might say, "This place smells amazing, doesn't it? I'm always drawn to the aroma of fresh coffee. Are you a regular here?" This not only starts the conversation, but also invites the other person to share something about themselves. To learn more about them, try open-ended questions like, "Where are you from?" or "What do you do for work or study?" These questions are fantastic for sparking small talk, which is the foundation of most casual conversations. Small talk might seem simple, but it's a powerful tool for building connections, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time. Once the conversation is underway, keeping it flowing is crucial. One of the best ways to do this is by asking follow-up questions. For instance, if someone says, "I'm from Italy," you could respond with, "Oh, that's amazing. What's your favorite thing about living there?" Or "Have you always lived in Italy?" Or "But did you move there?" These questions show genuine interest and encourage the other person to share more. Let's say they mention their job as a graphic designer. You could ask, "What do you enjoy most about designing? Is it the creative process or seeing the final product?" By paying attention to their responses and building on them, you create a dynamic, engaging dialogue. This approach also takes the pressure off you, as the other person does more of the talking while you listen and respond thoughtfully. But what happens when you hit a lull in the conversation? We've all been there, those moments when you're not sure what to say next. Don't worry, it's completely normal, and there are simple strategies to keep things moving. One effective technique is to share a personal story or experience. For example, if someone mentions they love traveling, you could say, "I love traveling too. Last year, I went to the mountains for a hiking trip, and there was this one moment when I reached the peak just as the sun was rising. The view was breathtaking, and I felt so accomplished." Have you ever had a trip that felt like a big adventure? Sharing a story not only fills the silence, but also makes the conversation more personal and relatable. It invites the other person to share their own experiences, creating a mutual exchange that feels natural and engaging. Another way to keep a conversation alive is by reacting naturally to what the other person says. If they share something exciting like, "I just got a promotion at work," you could respond with, "Wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations. How are you celebrating?" For more serious topics, like if they say, "I've been really stressed lately," you might reply, "I'm so sorry to hear that. That sounds tough. Do you want to talk about it?" These responses show empathy and build a connection, making the other person feel heard and valued. Using phrases like "that's amazing," "that sounds tough," or "tell me more" are simple yet powerful ways to keep the dialogue flowing. They demonstrate that you're actively listening and engaged in the conversation. Ending a conversation politely is just as important as starting one. You want to leave the other person with a positive impression and show that you value the interaction. Phrases like, "It was great talking to you," or "I really enjoyed our chat. Let's catch up again soon," are perfect for wrapping things up. For example, at the end of a networking event, you might say, "This was such a fun conversation. I loved hearing about your trip to Japan. Let's stay in touch and maybe share some travel tips next time." This not only signals the end of the conversation, but also opens the door for future interactions, leaving both parties feeling good about the exchange. Beyond words, conversational English is about tone, body language, and cultural awareness. Smiling and maintaining eye contact can make you seem approachable and friendly, while a flat tone or lack of engagement might come across as uninterested. For instance, saying "that's nice" with enthusiasm sounds warm and genuine, but saying it in a monotone voice might seem dismissive. Similarly, understanding cultural nuances can enhance your conversations. In some cultures, like in the United States, casual greetings like "how's it going" are often just friendly hellos, not an invitation for a detailed response. A simple "good, thanks, how about you" keeps the interaction light and natural. In other cultures, greetings might be more formal, like "good morning, how are you today?" Practicing these differences through role-playing, such as pretending to order food at a restaurant or asking for directions, can help you feel more confident in real-life situations. Let's dive into a few scenarios to illustrate how these skills come together. Imagine you're at a park and you see someone playing with their dog. You could start a conversation by saying, "Your dog looks so happy running around. I used to have a dog named Max who loved chasing his ball in the park. What's your dog's name?" This opener is friendly, shares a personal touch, and invites the other person to respond. If they say, "This is Luna. She loves the park," you could follow up with, "Luna is such a great name. Does she have a favorite thing to do here, like chasing squirrels or just exploring?" This keeps the conversation flowing and shows your interest in their story. Now, picture yourself at a cafe, ordering food. Instead of just saying, "I'll have a coffee," try adding detail, "I'd love a medium latte with almond milk, please. Oh, and could you add a sprinkle of cinnamon?" I had one like that last week, and it was the best way to start my day. If the barista responds, "We're out of almond milk, but we have oat milk," you could reply, "Oat milk sounds perfect. Thanks for letting me know. Do you recommend a vanilla or chocolate milkshake here? I've heard they're amazing." This exchange practices descriptive language, polite requests, and follow-up questions, all while keeping the interaction natural and engaging. Another scenario, you're at a networking event and someone mentions they're a photographer. You could say, "That's so cool. I've always been curious about photography. My cousin once took me to a photo shoot, and I was amazed at how she captured the light just right. What kind of photography do you do? Landscapes, portraits, or something else?" If they reply, "I focus on wildlife photography," you could respond with, "Wow, that must be so exciting. I saw a documentary about wildlife photographers, and it looked so challenging to wait for the perfect shot. What's your favorite animal to photograph?" This conversation builds on their interests, shares a related story, and uses open-ended questions to keep the dialogue dynamic. Storytelling is a powerful tool for conversational English. Stories make your speech more vivid and relatable, helping you connect with others on a deeper level. Let's say you're discussing travel with a friend who mentions visiting Spain. Instead of just saying, "That's nice," you could share a story. "Spain sounds incredible. Last summer, I went to Greece, and I'll never forget wandering through the narrow streets of Santorini. One evening, I stumbled upon a tiny restaurant with the most amazing moussaka. The owner even shared stories about the island's history." Have you had any memorable food experiences in Spain? This story not only adds depth to the conversation, but also invites your friend to share their own experiences, creating a mutual exchange. If you're unsure what to say next, don't be afraid to ask for clarification or take a moment to think. Phrases like, "Could you repeat that, please?" or "That's an interesting point. Let me think about it for a second," buy you time while showing you're engaged. For example, if someone speaks quickly and you miss part of their story, you could say, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part. Could you explain it again? I really want to hear more." Most people appreciate your effort to understand and will be happy to clarify. Similarly, if the conversation slows down, introduce a new topic with a transition like, "Speaking of that, I was wondering," or "That reminds me of something I read recently." For instance, if you're talking about movies and the conversation stalls, you could say, "Speaking of movies, have you seen any good documentaries lately? I watched one about space exploration, and it was mind-blowing." Building your vocabulary is essential for conversational fluency. Focus on learning practical phrases you can use in everyday situations. For example, instead of just saying, "I agree," try, "I see what you mean," or "We're on the same page." If someone asks a thought-provoking question, you might respond with, "That's a great question. Let me think about it." These phrases make your speech smoother and more interactive. Idioms like "break the ice" or "a piece of cake" can also add flair to your English. For instance, if a friend is nervous about a presentation, you could say, "Don't worry, you've got this. It'll be a piece of cake." Practicing idioms in context helps you sound more natural and fluent. Pronunciation is another key area. Even if your vocabulary is strong, unclear pronunciation can make it hard for others to understand you. Try practicing with tongue twisters like "She sells seashells by the seashore" to improve clarity. You can also mimic native speakers by listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, or using language apps. Record yourself speaking and compare it to native speakers to identify areas for improvement. For example, notice how native speakers stress certain syllables or use intonation to convey excitement. If you're saying, "That's amazing," practice emphasizing "amazing" to sound enthusiastic. Over time, these small adjustments will make your speech clearer and more confident. Active listening is just as important as speaking. When someone shares a story, show you're engaged by nodding, maintaining eye contact, or using phrases like, "I see," or "That's interesting." Paraphrasing what they say can also confirm your understanding. For instance, if someone says, "I've been so busy with work," you could respond, "It sounds like your job's been keeping you on your toes." How do you unwind after a long day? This shows you're listening and encourages them to share more. Active listening builds rapport and makes the other person feel valued, which is essential for meaningful conversations. Cultural awareness can elevate your conversational skills. Different cultures have unique conversational norms. In some places, small talk is expected before diving into serious topics, while in others, people prefer directness. For example, in the UK, talking about the weather is a common way to start conversation. You might say, "It's so rainy today. I had to run to the bus stop to avoid getting soaked." Do you enjoy rainy days or prefer sunshine? Understanding these nuances helps you adapt your approach. Watching international films or joining multicultural groups can also expose you to different conversational styles, making you a more versatile communicator. Mistakes are a natural part of learning, so don't let them discourage you. If you forget a word, describe it instead. For example, if you can't remember umbrella, you could say the thing you use when it's raining to stay dry. Most people will appreciate your effort and help you find the word. If someone corrects you, thank them and keep going. Every mistake is a chance to learn, and the more you practice, the fewer mistakes you'll make. Try practicing daily, even if it's just talking to yourself in the mirror or using a language exchange app. The more you speak, the more confident you'll become. Let's explore more scenarios to practice these skills. Imagine you're at a farmer's market and a vendor offers you fresh strawberries. Instead of saying, "I'll take some, try, these strawberries look delicious. My mom used to make the best jam with fresh berries when I was a kid. It always reminds me of summer. Are these grown locally?" If the vendor says, "Yes, from a farm nearby," you could reply, "That's awesome. I love supporting local farmers. Do you have any tips for keeping strawberries fresh? I always buy too many." This exchange practices descriptive language, storytelling, and asking for advice. At a workplace, suppose a colleague mentions a tough project. You could say, "That sounds challenging. Last year, I worked on a project with a tight deadline, and we ended up breaking it into smaller tasks to make it manageable. Have you found any strategies that help?" This shows empathy and offers a practical suggestion, keeping the conversation collaborative. If they respond, "We've been working overtime," you could say, "I feel you, overtime can be exhausting. Do you get a chance to relax after work? Maybe with a hobby?" This transitions the conversation to a lighter topic, maintaining the flow. In a classroom or language group, try hypothetical questions to spark discussion. For example, ask, "If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?" If someone says, "I'd go to Japan," you could respond, "Japan sounds incredible. I've always wanted to see the cherry blossoms in spring. I read they have festivals to celebrate them. What part of Japan would you visit?" This practices expressing preferences and building on others' ideas. If the conversation shifts to food, you might say, "Speaking of Japan, I tried sushi for the first time last month, and the fresh tuna was amazing. What's a dish from your culture you love?" This keeps the dialogue dynamic and culturally engaging. When discussing emotions, use descriptive language to convey your feelings. Instead of saying, "I'm happy," try, "I'm over the moon," or "I'm thrilled about this." If someone shares a challenge, respond empathetically. "That must be so tough. While I went through something similar, I found taking short breaks helped. What's been helping you?" This shows you're listening and adds a personal touch. For disagreements, stay polite. "I see your point, but I think," or "That's interesting, though I lean toward." These phrases keep the conversation respectful and balanced. Pauses are natural, so don't fear them. If you need time to think, say, "Let me think about that for a moment." If the conversation lags, introduce a new topic. "By the way, have you seen any good movies lately? I watched a comedy last weekend that had me laughing out loud." Humor can also lighten the mood. At a party, you might say, "That dessert table is calling my name. I'm torn between the cake and the cookies. What's your pick?" This invites a response and keeps things playful. Fluency comes from repetition, so practice speaking on familiar topics. Try describing your day for 2 minutes without stopping. "This morning I woke up early, made coffee, and went for a walk. The park was quiet, and I saw a squirrel stealing someone's snack. It was hilarious. This exercise builds confidence in speaking continuously. You can also shadow native speakers by repeating after audio clips or TV dialogues to mimic their pronunciation and rhythm. Record yourself and compare to improve. Storytelling adds depth to conversations. Imagine discussing a book. This novel reminded me of a time I felt lost in my career. The character's struggle to find purpose hit home. I once took a leap and switched jobs, and it was scary but rewarding. Did the book resonate with you? This invites others to share while practicing expressive language. Or at a family gathering, say, your story about camping reminds me of when my friends and I got lost in the woods. We laughed so hard when we finally found our tent at midnight. Did you ever have a funny camping mishap? In professional settings, adapt your tone. Instead of "what's up," say, "how's your day going?" If a colleague mentions a project, respond, "that sounds like a big undertaking. I worked on something similar last year and learned a lot about time management. What's the most exciting part for you?" This keeps the tone professional yet engaging. For casual settings, use slang or idioms. "That concert was awesome. The band totally killed it." What's the best show you've seen? Cultural differences matter. In some cultures, directness is valued. In others, indirectness avoids conflict. If someone says, "let's meet sometime," they might not mean it literally. Respond with, "sounds good. Are you free next week?" To clarify. Watching English media or joining language exchange groups exposes you to these nuances. For example, in a language app, you might say, "I'm practicing English. Last week I learned a phrase hit the nail on the head. Have you heard it?" This sparks discussion and builds vocabulary. Confidence grows with practice, so don't shy away from mistakes. If you stumble, laugh it off. "Oops, I meant to say schedule, not squirrel." Most people will appreciate your effort. Practice daily. Talk to yourself, join a speaking group, or role-play scenarios like shopping or dining. Over time, conversations will feel easier, and you'll express yourself with ease. To wrap up, mastering conversational English is a journey of practice, patience, and curiosity. By starting with simple greetings, asking open-ended questions, sharing stories, and listening actively, you'll build fluency and confidence. Embrace mistakes, practice daily, and use relatable scenarios to make every conversation a learning opportunity. Whether you're at a cafe, a park, or a networking event, each interaction is a step toward fluency. Thank you for joining me, Alex, on my English podcast. Keep practicing, stay curious, and tune in next time for more tips to make your English shine. Happy learning!